On the shining planet of Velarisix, everything looked perfect on the outside. Towering crystal cities floated above soft blue clouds. Their people, the Tharkai, were tall, graceful, and known for their beauty and intelligence. But under their perfect skin, they followed one strict rule. Only those who could produce strong children were worthy of honor. In a grand hall filled with silver lights, a young Tharkai woman stood in silence. Her name was Lyra. Her long, pale green hair fell down her back, and her soft violet eyes stared at the floor. She wore a ceremonial robe, but it felt heavy like chains. All around her, noble families watched in cold silence. Her parents stood at the front expressionless. A voice echoed through the room. The Central Genetic Council has confirmed she cannot produce offspring. Her line has ended. Gasps, whispers. A few nobles shook their heads in disgust. Others turned their faces away. Her mother stepped forward. As tradition commands, we remove our family's name from her identity. Lyra is no longer of House Valor. Her father didn't even look at her. She brings shame. We cleanse our line. They dropped a white pendant, the symbol of family, onto the floor. It cracked. Lyra did not cry. She had already cried many nights in private. She knew what this day would bring. A human officer standing in the back corner, wearing a dark blue uniform with silver stripes, raised an eyebrow. Commander Elias Rourke had seen many strange customs during his travels across the stars, but this one felt especially cruel. He didn't speak. He simply observed. His arms crossed behind him. As the ceremony ended, Lyra walked away alone. Past faces she once knew now turned to stone. She was no longer a daughter, no longer a noble, just a shadow in a perfect world. Lyra lived in the lower levels of the capital, now deep below the floating cities. The sun didn't shine here. Instead, soft orange lights buzzed on old walls, and steam hissed from old machines. This was where outcasts lived, the forgotten, the unwanted. She worked at a repair stall, fixing voice translators, hover disks, and small ship parts. Her hands were skilled, her mind still sharp, but most customers didn't thank her. They only tossed credits and walked away. One day, while cleaning old equipment, she heard a soft voice. Excuse me, is this the place that fixes translator chips? She looked up and saw a young human girl, nervous but smiling. Her translator device blinked red. Yes, Lyra said simply. Let me see. As she worked on the device, the girl looked around. I've never been this deep before. Kinda spooky, but cool in a weird way. Lyra gave a small smile. It's peaceful. You live here. I do. The girl tilted her head. You speak standard very well. I practiced, alone. Once the chip was fixed, Lyra handed it back. Wow, thank you, the girl said, eyes lighting up. You're really good. Most repair places told me to go away. Lyra nodded, not knowing what to say. Kind words were rare. The next day, someone else came. Not a child this time, but an adult, tall, human, and serious, Commander Rourke. He stepped into the shop, looking slightly out of place in the messy, dusty stall. But his tone was polite. I heard you fixed a translator chip yesterday. Fast. And clean. That's not easy. Lyra gave a small bow. Yes, I did. I was there, Rourke said. At your ceremony. I didn't agree with it, but I know when to keep my mouth shut. She didn't reply. He looked around. Do you always work alone? Yes, you're good at what you do. She looked up. Surprised, compliments weren't common, especially from aliens, especially from humans. Thank you, she said quietly. He stepped closer. You were trained in noble science schools, weren't you? I was. Before. Still using your skills. I see. Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest. Rourke wasn't praising her out of pity. He spoke like someone who saw real value. I just want to help where I can, she said. That's rare. Most nobles I meet don't even know how to fix a door. That made her smile. Just a little. Before leaving, Rourke paused. If anyone gives you trouble, just mention my name. Some folks down here listen to me. She looked at him. Why would you do that? He shrugged. Because you deserve better than being forgotten. Later that night, Lyra sat on the edge of her small cot. The streets outside buzzed with quiet activity, but her mind was somewhere else. A human had spoken to her not as a failure, but as a person, and he had offered protection without asking for anything. She looked at her hands. The same hands that once touched royal devices. The same hands that now fixed junk for spare coins. Maybe she wasn't broken. Maybe she was just unseen. Days passed slowly in the lower levels of the Tharkai capital. Lyra worked, ate, and slept in silence. The world above didn't care about her anymore. The nobles had erased her name, but they could not erase her mind. The old repair stall she worked at was dark and dusty, but it was hers now. She had fixed the light panels herself. She cleaned the floor every morning. She organized tools neatly on the wall. There was pride in small things, even when no one else noticed. One morning, as she adjusted a damaged circuit board, a shadow fell across her desk. She looked up, expecting another rude customer. But instead, it was Commander Rourke again. "You open?" he asked. Lyra blinked. "Yes, always." He smiled slightly and held up a small box. "I've got a navigation unit acting strange. Thought maybe you'd take a look." She nodded and took the device. "I'll fix it." Rourke sat on a nearby stool while she worked. He didn't speak for a while. He just watched her fingers move quickly and carefully. "You work fast," he said finally. "I was trained for high-pressure tasks," she replied. "Before, things changed." "You still have that training." "That hasn't changed." Lyra didn't reply, but she liked how he said it, not like someone trying to comfort her, just honest. After a few minutes, she handed the fixed device back to him. "Try it now. It should work fine." Rourke tested it, nodded, then looked at her. "Have you ever thought about working for the humans?" She tilted her head. "Me? Why?" "We have teams studying Tharkai tech. You know it better than most. We could use someone like you." Lyra looked down. "I'm not allowed to work with high-level equipment anymore. The council banned me. Let me guess, because of your genetics." She nodded slowly. Rourke shook his head. "That's a ridiculous reason. On Earth, we don't throw people away because of one part of their biology. You don't, of course not. We're not perfect, but we try to judge people by who they are, not what they can't do." Lyra looked at him carefully. "Your world must be very different." "It is, but not in the way you think. We still struggle. We still fail, but we choose kindness when we can." She let those words sit in her mind. Choose kindness? That evening, Lyra sat at the back of the shop, reading from a small screen tablet. It was old, but still worked. Rourke had given it to her the week before. It had access to human literature, history, and even art. She loved reading about Earth, the forests, the cities, the oceans. But what she loved most were the stories of ordinary humans who had nothing and still did something great. People who were poor, sick, or cast out, yet still changed the world. It gave her hope. A week later, while closing the shop, a surprise visitor arrived. Not a human this time, but a Tharkai guard. He was tall, dressed in black and silver, with glowing blue armor. Most guards never came down to these levels. He walked in and looked around. "Are you Lyra of formerly House Valor?" She stood slowly. "Yes." He handed her a message disc. "You are summoned to speak with Valor, first heir to the throne." Lyra froze. "The Alpha King." "Why me? I don't ask questions. I deliver orders." She took the disc, confused. The guard left without another word. The next morning, Lyra was led through the sky bridges of the upper city. It was the first time she'd seen the sunlight in months. The glass towers sparkled in the light, and silver birds flew through the sky. She entered a quiet chamber with tall windows. At the center stood a man tall, with dark hair tied back, silver eyes calm and curious. He wore no crown, but his presence was strong. This was Valor, the Alpha King by blood, but not yet by title. "You are Lyra," he said simply. She bowed politely. "Yes, High One." "Do not bow," he said. "I called you as an equal." She straightened, unsure what to say. "I've heard about you," Valor continued. "You were thrown out for infertility, yet you still serve others, quietly, Kindly, I only do what I can, she replied. That is rare. Most nobles would collapse without their name or status. I'm not most nobles. He smiled. Exactly why I wanted to meet you. Lyra was confused. Why would someone like him care about someone like her? I heard about you from Commander Rourke, Valor explained. He says you're intelligent, humble, and wise beyond your years. I believe him. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. You speak with humans often. I learn from them. They see value where we see weakness, and I'm starting to think they may be right. He stepped closer, but his voice was gentle. Would you consider working with me? Not as a servant, as a partner, a mind I can trust. Lyra didn't know what to say. I don't need another noble, Valor said. I need someone real. She took a breath. I'll help, if I'm allowed. I allow it, he said. Let the council argue. I've made my choice. For the first time in months, Lyra felt something rise in her chest, not fear, not shame, but hope. The days that followed changed everything for Lyra. For so long, she had lived in the shadows, working in silence, unseen by the world. But now, she stood inside bright, open halls, walking beside the one everyone feared and admired, Valor. Heir to the Tharkai throne, he wasn't like the other nobles. He didn't speak in riddles or hide behind pride. He asked questions. He listened. He looked at Lyra not as someone beneath him, but someone beside him each day. She helped him sort through old records, study policies, and review requests from the lower cities. Lyra noticed something strange. Why do most of these letters go unanswered? She asked one day, holding a small stack of messages. Valor sighed. The council ignores anything from people without status. That means people like me, yes, he replied. And many others. Lyra shook her head. But these people are asking for clean water, safer streets, school repairs. I know, Valor said softly. But as long as they're seen as useless, no one listens. She stared at him. And you want to change that. I have to, he said, or I'm not fit to rule at all. That night, Lyra sat alone in the guest chambers Valor had given her. It was simple but peaceful. The bed was soft, the walls glowed with warm light, but she still felt like she didn't belong. How had she come from being cast out to sitting beside the future king? She remembered what he said earlier. I need someone real. Maybe that's what made humans so strange and so powerful. They didn't worship bloodlines. They respected honesty. They valued effort. Perhaps Valor had learned that from them. She picked up the human tablet Commander Rourke gave her and searched for something new. One quote from a human leader caught her eye. Greatness is not in being born noble. It's in treating others nobly. She read it twice, then whispered to herself, maybe there's another way to rule. The next day, Valor called her to the open chamber again. But this time, he wasn't alone. Commander Elias Rourke stood beside him, arms crossed, and face calm. He gave Lyra a small nod when she entered. Lyra, Valor said, we've been discussing something important. She stepped forward. What is it? Valor handed her a metal scroll. Inside it was a planner project to open a learning center for lower-level citizens, a place where anyone noble or not could study, learn technology, and share ideas. I want you to lead it, Valor said. Design the programs, organize the staff. Make it something real. Lyra's eyes widened. You want me to run this? I don't just want it. I trust you to do it right, Commander Rourke added. You know both worlds, noble thinking and street survival. You can reach people neither of us can. Lyra looked down at the scroll, then back at them. No one's ever trusted me like this before. Valor gave a gentle smile. They were fools. I won't make the same mistake. As the weeks passed, the learning center became real. It was built on neutral ground between the middle and lower levels, where anyone could walk in without fear. Lyra worked every day with human engineers and young Tharkai thinkers. Together, they created classes in language, coding, mechanics, and even emotional health. Children came first, but adults followed too. Many of them had been thrown away like her, and now they finally had a place to grow. At first, nobles laughed. Some called it a waste of time. Others said the broken girl was only playing at importance. But Valor did not stop her, and neither did the humans. Instead, something strange happened. A young noble child, curious and kind, joined the school. He became friends with a lower-level girl. Soon others followed. Walls started to fall not with war or speeches, but with shared stories and laughter. One afternoon, while checking the garden space near the school's entrance, Lyra saw Valor walking toward her. "You've done more than I imagined," he said, looking around. "It wasn't me alone," she replied. "The humans helped, the students helped, you helped. But you led," he said. "That matters." He sat beside her on a stone bench for a moment. Neither spoke. Then he looked at her with quiet eyes. "I know what it's like to be judged before anyone sees your soul." She looked at him. "Because of your mixed blood." He nodded. "Half of the council still sees me as less. I was never their first choice to lead. But humans taught me that being born different can be a gift. You're stronger because of it," Lyra said. "So are you." They sat in silence again. Not awkward dash peaceful dot Valor spoke softly. "Lyra, if this world were mine already, I would name you High Advisor." Her eyes widened. "But I'm not noble. I'm not even. You are exactly what this kingdom needs," he said. "Someone who sees what others ignore." Lyra felt something in her heart shift. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider looking in. She felt seen. Not as a burden, but as a treasure. Later that night, the stars above Valor 6 blinked softly. The floating cities cast reflections over the clouds. And down below, lights from the learning center glowed warmly like a lighthouse for lost souls. Inside, Lyra walked through the halls. Children laughed, old machines hummed, and on one wall, a sign was carved into languages Tharkai and English. "You are not broken. You are becoming." She touched the words gently. She was not the same girl who had been cast out. Now, she was becoming something new, something powerful. The Learning Center had only been open for 2 months, but already it was changing lives. The halls were always filled with curious voices, happy laughter, and soft humming of new machines. Lyra watched it grow every day like a garden planted. In rocky ground, now blooming, people from all parts of Valor 6 began visiting. Some nobles sent their children secretly. Others came pretending it was just to observe. But more and more, the people started to see what Lyra and Valor already knew. Status means nothing without wisdom. Valor often visited the center, sometimes alone, sometimes with human guests. He would walk the halls quietly, smiling at the students. His presence brought peace, not fear. And always, he would speak with Lyra, not as a ruler to a worker, but as a man to someone he deeply respected. One morning, Lyra entered the learning center to find the halls unusually quiet. The lights were still on, the doors were open, but no one was inside. Confused, she walked to the main room. Man stopped in surprise. The room was filled with students, teachers, human visitors, and nobles from the high court. At the center, standing tall in royal blue, was Valor. He smiled as she entered. "You're right on time." She blinked. "What is happening?" "I called the council, the people, and the humans to witness something important," he said. "A moment of truth." Lyra stepped forward slowly. "Truth?" Valor turned to the crowd. "For years, we measured worth by bloodlines and biology. We judged people based on what they could give us, not who they truly are. That ends today." The nobles whispered. The human diplomats watched silently. Valor took a breath. Lyra, daughter of no house, cast out by custom, has built more unity, more growth, and more hope than any council member here. A noblewoman frowned. "She is still infertile. That fact remains." Valor raised his hand. "And it does not matter." Gasps filled the room. He turned back to Lyra. "Lyra," he said, voice calm and strong, "I have known you in silence and hardship, and in your rise, you carry wisdom, kindness, and strength I have never seen in any noble court. I offer not pity but partnership." Then, in front of all, he knelt. "I ask, not as a king, but as a man, will you stand beside me as my chosen companion, my official bond partner?" Not to bear heirs, but to help me build a future worth living. Lyra stood frozen. The room was completely silent. All eyes turned to her. Her hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. A man of power, respected by all, had chosen her not despite her past, but because of who she had become. She began, then looked around. She saw the students watching with wide eyes. She saw Rourke standing in the corner, giving her a quiet nod. Then she looked at Valor. "I accept," she said softly. The room burst into sound shouts, cheers, gasps, and protests, but Valor did not look away. His eyes were calm, focused only on her. The news spread like a windstorm across Velaris. The heir to the throne had chosen a woman without a family name, a woman once declared unworthy, a woman who could not continue his bloodline. To some, it was madness. To others, a revolution. In the lower cities, people celebrated. They lit candles and played music in the streets. In the noble towers, the council held emergency meetings. But in the learning center, things continued as normal. Lyra continued her work. She helped students with math. She fixed broken training bots. She walked the halls with the same calm heart. As always, only now, people bowed to her when she passed. She never asked for that. One evening, as the stars glowed outside the floating windows, Commander Rourke visited her private study. "You caused quite a storm," he said with a smile. "I didn't plan any of this," she replied. "Exactly why you deserve it." She looked down at her hands. "They still whisper behind my back. Some say I'm just a symbol, a message, not a real choice. Do you believe that?" She thought for a moment. Then she shook her head. "No, Valor knows who I am. He doesn't care about what I cannot do. He values what I can." Rourke nodded. "That's the human way. You build worth. You don't wait to be born with it." Later that night, Lyra stood on the balcony of her new home, a quiet space within the palace grounds. She looked out at the stars and let the wind brush her face. Valor stepped beside her. He said nothing for a while. Then he spoke. "You've changed more than laws, Lyra. You've changed hearts." She turned to him. "So have you." He smiled gently. "Will you still be you even when they call you queen?" She laughed softly. "I will always be me, and I will always treat you as you deserve," he said. "Not because you carry royal blood, but because you carry light." She reached for his hand, and together they stood in the night to outcasts, once discarded, now building a kingdom of kindness. The Learning Center had grown into more than just a school. It was now a symbol of hope for all who had been forgotten or cast aside. The air buzzed with excitement and new ideas. People from every level of society came to learn, to teach, and to build a better future. Lyra walked through the halls with quiet pride. She still fixed machines and helped students with their lessons, but her role had changed. She was now a leader, a guide who believed in the power of knowledge and kindness. Valor stood beside her, watching the new world they were shaping together. The council, once so cold and strict, was beginning to listen. Slowly, old laws were questioned and new ones made. The idea that worth was more than bloodline was spreading. One afternoon, Lyra met with a group of young nobles who had joined the Learning Center. Against their parents' wishes, they were curious, eager to understand a world they had been kept away from. "Why do you think this matters so much?" asked one noble girl, her voice soft but determined. Lyra smiled gently. "Because when people learn, they grow. When they grow, they see each other as equals, not just by birth, but by heart." Another noble boy nodded. "I was taught that only nobles matter, but here I see strength in kindness and knowledge." Valor entered the room quietly and added, "This is how a kingdom survives, not by power or fear, but by unity and respect." The nobles looked at each other, understanding dawning in their eyes. Meanwhile, the humans continued to work with Lyra and Valor. Scientists, engineers, and scholars from Earth and other planets came to Velaris, eager to share knowledge and learn from the Tharkai. Lyra found herself leading joint projects to improve clean water systems, renewable energy, and health care. The projects gave hope to those in the lower levels, where disease and poverty had once ruled. She also started a program to teach emotional health, how to handle feelings, stress, and conflict peacefully. It was new for many Tharkai, who were raised to hide emotions and show strength only. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Lyra sat with Valor in the garden. The stars sparkled above them, and soft music from the learning center drifted through the air. I never imagined this life, Lyra said quietly. From being cast out to building a kingdom. Valor took her hand gently. You never stopped believing. That's why you are here. She looked at him, her eyes shining. Do you think the others will ever truly accept me? He smiled warmly. I do. Because you have changed more than laws, you have changed hearts. Her smile grew, and I will keep working to make that true. But change was not easy. The old council was still powerful, and some nobles refused to accept Lyra's place beside Valor. Rumors spread that Valor's choice was a mistake, that the kingdom would fall if they ignored tradition. One day, Lyra received a secret message from a noble sympathetic to their cause. It warned her that some council members planned to stop the learning center's funding. Lyra felt a cold wave of fear, but pushed it aside. We cannot give up, she told Valor. This is bigger than us. He nodded. Then we fight not with weapons, but with ideas and truth. Together, they prepared to face the challenges ahead. The council meeting was tense. Old voices spoke loudly against change. But Valor stood tall and spoke with quiet strength. Is the future of Velaris to be ruled by fear and narrow tradition, or by hope and unity? Lyra stepped forward and shared stories from the learning center, the children who learned to read, the families who gained clean water, the nobles who found new respect for all people. Her words touched many hearts. One by one, the council members began to soften. The funding was saved. It was a victory not just for Lyra and Valor, but for everyone who believed in a better tomorrow. As the sun set over the floating cities, Lyra and Valor stood together on a balcony overlooking the capital. Look at what we've built, Valor said softly. A kingdom redefined, Lyra replied. He smiled. Because you showed us what truly matters. She squeezed his hand. And because you believed in me. Under the stars, two leaders once outcasts dreamed of a future where everyone was valued for who they are, not what they could give. And that future was just beginning. Years had passed since Lyra had been cast out, and much had changed on Velaris. The shining towers still floated above the clouds, but now the people below were no longer forgotten. They had a voice, a place to learn, and hope for the future. Lyra stood on the balcony of the palace, looking out over the city she had helped change. Beside her stood Valor, the Alpha King, proud and calm. You have done more than I ever imagined. Valor said softly. Lyra smiled. It was not me alone. The people helped, the humans helped, and you believed. Valor reached for her hand. We have built something stronger than bloodlines. We built trust. That day, a special ship arrived from Earth. Humans and Tharkai gathered at the landing dock to welcome the visitors. Lyra was excited to see the new faces. She had learned much from humans over the years. They taught her kindness, patience, and the value of a person's heart, not just their body. The human ambassador stepped forward and bowed slightly. Lady Lyra, your work has inspired many worlds. We come to offer stronger friendship between Earth and Velaris. Lyra nodded. Together, we can do great things. Valor smiled. Our alliance is a treasure beyond any crown. Later that evening, Lyra walked through the palace gardens with a young Tharkai girl named Sira. Sira was curious and bright, with shining green eyes like Lyra's. She had come to the learning center years ago, shy and afraid. Now she was confident and full of dreams. Lady Lyra, Sira said, will I ever be a queen like you? Lyra laughed softly. I'm no queen because of birth. I'm here because of my heart and my choices. Sira looked up. Can I be like you? You can be better, Lyra said. Be kind. Work hard. Believe in yourself. The young girl smiled. I will. As the stars shone above, Lyra thought about how far she had come. Her parents had thrown her away for something she could not control. But now, the Alpha King treated her like a treasure, not for what she could give, but for who she was. She had found her place not by blood, but by courage and love. Her story was no longer one of shame. It was a story of hope. The next day, Lyra visited Earth for the first time. She was amazed by the forests, oceans, and endless skies. She walked through crowded cities where people of all kinds lived together, laughed together, and helped each other. She met scientists, artists, and children. They all welcomed her warmly. A young boy asked, "What is the secret to being strong?" Lyra smiled. "Kindness and never giving up on yourself." Back on Valara 6, the Learning Center had grown into a university, open to all species. Lyra's dream of a kingdom where no one was judged by their bloodline was becoming real. Valar and Lyra stood together before a new generation of leaders. Remember, Valar told them, strength comes not from where you are born, but from what you choose to be. Lyra added, and every person is a treasure, waiting to shine. As the sun set on Valara 6, Lyra and Valar looked toward the future. Together, they had changed a kingdom. Together, they had built a new world. And together, they would face whatever came next side by side.